Hey, hello, welcome back to the show. I had a little moment there, didn't I? One of the things that happens on live video is that it all goes on a bit quickly, and sometimes when you haven't done quite all of your prep properly, you suddenly discover it's gone wrong, and it's part of the fun. I have to say that from my purely personal point of view, I just like doing it, so I don't worry too much if it goes a bit wonky, but I get annoyed. That's all that happens, really. So there you go. I get annoyed with myself, which is what people do, isn't it? Today, I want to ask you about housing, but before we do that, we'll just get what does he say? Algernon? Back take two, indeed. Yes, exactly right. That's definitely the answer to that one. Take two. What I want to talk about today is one that's actually I've been working on for a couple of days because there's some subjects that really get to me, and they get to me from my point of view. They get to me from many other people's points of view, and the key to what I want to talk about today, I'll show you a little graphic, very little tiny one, and here we go. What we're talking about today is social housing, because back in 1979, there were 6.5 million units, i.e., houses, flats, whatever, of social housing, which means it's rented out, kind of council flats, council houses, etc. In 2017, there are just 2 million. That means there are 4.5 million less units of social housing available for rental. But the interesting thing is that there are tens and hundreds of thousands of people homeless. There are many families homeless. I know someone extremely well who's homeless themselves, and their little two-person family is spread out all over the place because there are no social housing units available. You cannot find them. And if you're looking for privately rented flats or houses, you can't find those either. So what seems to be happening, what seems to have happened, is that all of those flats and houses and stuff have vanished, and they've gone into private ownership in effect. And up until recently, this was quite a big diddle. Apparently, councils have been buying back council houses that they originally sold to the occupiers 20, 30, 40 years ago. Something wrong there, isn't there? The councils built the houses. They were compelled by the Tory government of the time, Margaret Thatcher's government, really. They were compelled by that government to get rid of those places, to actually sell them to their tenants, if their tenants wanted them. And what happened was that those tenants then went on, maybe a few years later, to sell them and make a lot of money, or they sold them to private landlords who then rented them out again. So the whole thing has become somewhat of a nightmare, I think. I think it's become dreadful, and I think it's become, got to say it, haven't you, really, crooked. It's become crooked. And what we've got is a situation in which landlords are now also kicking out their private tenants from those houses, and it's all getting, again, out of hand. Now, I want to know how this is affecting older people, because I was looking at the Shelter website. Give you some details in the comments later. I'll add those in. But Shelter say that there are huge numbers of older people who are in trouble for homes, as well as younger people. And the whole thing seems to be getting completely out of hand. What I want to use this brief show for is to actually get you, if you watch it, and if you would, to come back to me with any information you have about the situation in your own neck of the woods. Do you have rental properties available where you are? In our town, in my hometown, Felixstowe, there are zero council properties available. There are very few housing association properties available. The whole thing seems completely out of hand, and designed really to do older people, poorer people, younger people down, and to actually hold up the rich and or the better off at least. The other issue that we have as older people is, from my point of view, I'm not a house owner because I went a different path through my life. But many older people now are in homes that are startlingly valuable. And some of them are able to pass on the money to their kids, which is what people want to do. Some of them have a sudden moment of discovery when they have to go into a residential care or a residential home, because they're then forced to sell their houses to pay for that. If they weren't in possession of a house that was worth a good lot of money, then the state would pay. But the reality for so many people is that they have to pay effectively out of the homes that they own. So that's really sticky as hell, isn't it? It's the whole thing has become a jungle, and it needs to be sorted out. I don't know whether the Labour Party will be able to sort out if they get into power next election, but I think it's certainly true that the Tories don't seem to be displaying any interest in sorting out the problem or sorting out anything. What do we do? I really want to hear from you about your situation with a house and home. If you have one, if you don't have one, I'd like to hear that as well. Obviously, the people without houses and homes aren't going to have the internet, so I don't know how they'll get to us. But one way or another, I would really like to hear from you to tell me what is happening in your area with the housing situation. And that's kind of where I want to go on this show. It's very easy to look at these numbers and say, God, we need to build another few million houses. But as we all know, not that easy, is it? It's not that simple. And we need to get something done about it. Otherwise, we're going to be in the shtuck. Okay, that's a very brief little show. We'll be back with a proper show, I think, tomorrow, because to be honest with you, I've been up to my ears in stuff for the last couple of weeks, so I haven't done much on the Old Geezer show, but we will be back in normal production kind of as of now. Okay, I'm Chris. This is the Old Geezer show, and I have to tell you, I will see you soon. Take care now.